So my name is Savannah Ziegler, and this is my presentation on Chapter 11 of Basque Culture, Basque Immigration, and the Diaspora of the Americas. And before I start, I just want to apologize for any technical difficulties or mispronunciations. I know that I oftentimes have trouble speaking. So in this presentation, I'm essentially going to be talking about how the Basque culture has spread from Basque Country in Spain all the way to the Americas, mostly focusing on the United States of America. Colonizing the Americas. First came the early colonization of the Americas. So Basque people actually played a pretty big role in this, as they were intellectuals, lawyers, doctors, and peasants farmers, all looking for new opportunities that this new world brought. They wanted to get their hand in there and really just try out this new life. During this time, many new nations were forming in South America, and there was plenty of open land and few inhabitants. Simultaneously, Spain, especially the Basque Country, was going through a very troubled time, as we've studied previously, and many Basque refugees left for a new country. The lifestyle was nomadic and perfect condition for the Basque immigrants to build a lifestyle, sheep herding. By the 19th century, thousands of Basques lived this way, mostly in Argentina and Uruguay, and they actually ended up making pretty big names for themselves in these countries, which I thought was kind of cool. When it came to the United States, what initially intrigued the Basque was the California Gold Rush, which also intrigued many people that lived in the United States on the East Coast. And so basically, many South American Basques traveled north. Yet once they got here, they realized the mines wasn't really for them, and they headed for the hills, literally. And they began doing what they did best, sheep herding. Though the conditions of North America were very different than the South when it came to animal grazing and things like that, the Basques did not really have too much trouble adjusting. They eventually spread across the West, and by the 20th century, the Basque sheep herders had spread from California across the states of Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and even eastern Washington. Literally, the whole entire West. So I've been talking a lot about Basque sheep herders, and I just wanted to take a picture and provide a visual of what this actually looked like. So this is a picture of some Basque sheep herders in New Mexico, actually. I was also shocked because I didn't know there were trees in New Mexico. And so you can see there's a ton of sheep, and the men are camping, and it seems like pretty hard of a lifestyle. You're out camping, moving outside all the time, and that seems like it would be pretty hard on someone, but thought this visual would help kind of picture what I'm talking about a little better. Soon the American citizens started to notice the impact of the Basque livestock and began restricting their use of grazing lands by passing a few small laws. These were regarded as unconstitutional, so later when the land was considered to be overgrazed, only a few could get the go-ahead for their livestock to graze upon public land, and being illegal aliens still, since the Basques had traveled from South America, they never got this go-ahead. So they had to move elsewhere. After the Taylor Grazing Act was passed, which ended open grazing on all public lands, most Basques moved back to Europe. Some stayed and gained citizenship, and most of those ones ended up opening some ranches or small businesses. In the war years, things were changing in America, and they passed some new laws. One of these is called the Sheepherder Laws, which were individual pieces of legislation introduced by a Western senator, congressman, legalizing the status of one or more illegal Basque aliens in his district. So in the years 1942 and 1961, hundreds of Basque men became permanent residents of the United States. Nevada Senator Pat McCarran was an ex-sheepman, and he produced lots of favoring legislature for the Basque community. Following him, a rancher group in California, the California Range Association, recruited herders from Europe and even paid them to live in America. They made a contract that included health insurance and everything. In the beginning years, the herder was required to work for 3 years, and then they would leave, but if they wanted to return for 3 more years, they could gain residency. In the 1970s, this was altered so herders could apply for permanent residency after one contract and then work whatever job they chose. Yet with society becoming more modern, few young Basque men were interested in the shepherd lifestyle, and was found mostly Mexican or Peruvian citizens were the ones that actually took the opportunity. So overall, the Western Range Association was pretty beneficial, and overall, the 1,500 herders through this program in 1970, over 90% were Basque. And in 1976, 1/6 of the 750 herders were Basque. And in general, the program brought several thousands of Spanish Basques to the West, even though the majority did not end up permanently settling here. So after this, Basque hotels were made. And as you can see here in the chapter, it says, Basque hotels were undoubtedly the single most important social institution among the Basque Americans. So after a Basque herder retired, they oftentimes created a ethnic haven known as a Basque hotel or boarding house. Though it could have been opened by anyone, an ex-herder and family was usually the case. And most of these hotel districts were found in cities like Reno, Boise, LA, San Francisco, Bakersfield, etc. So more popular cities of the West. So these boarding hotels were homes to children during school, pregnant wives. They provided a place to stay out of the storm, had translators for doctor's appointments and city visits, held storage items such as guns, things like that. It was a wedding and party venue and created many jobs and opportunities, basically did everything they could to support the Basque American lifestyle, and they really created the Basque American community. Nowadays, many of these boarding houses have been turned into a sort of trendy Basque restaurant with all Basque cuisine, still holding the traditional Basque stories and culture, yet inviting others to catch a glimpse. And pictured here is Louis' Basque cuisine, which is actually in downtown Reno, Nevada, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty happening place. I've been there a couple times, and it's really fun. And it's right in the middle of downtown, which is super cool. So I just thought I would add this in here to get kind of an idea that there were 573,793 Basques in the year 2000 in America. And as time went on and shepherds became less and less common, the whole USA was becoming pretty urban. So this only made the Basque ethnic pride grow, forming many organizations that we still see around America today. The first kind of cultural celebration was actually when a Nevada casino man married a Boise Basque, and they put on a huge festival, and it had around 6,000 attendees, and many went home inspired and kind of formed their own mini festivals and clubs in their own towns, which eventually led to the making of NABO, North American Basque Organizations Incorporated. And this organization made camps for Basque children to learn about their traditional dances, play traditional instruments, fun stuff like that. And they had a bunch of tours for Americans to learn all about the Basques. So then in the 1990s, Boise Basque organized a festival called Hayaldi, excuse my pronunciation, which was basically a weekend-long Basque culture celebration, which happens every 5 years and is basically the Basque festival that nobody is gonna miss. So I thought I would include some pictures of Hayaldi, hopefully that's how you pronounce it. Here you can see some people doing some traditional dances. I'll give everyone a second to look at that. You can see here that the people are pretty traditionally dressed, and it looks really fun. This is another image that I actually picked, not because it was one of the only I can find, which also might be true, but I actually thought this was a good depiction because you can see how it's a pretty popular event, and there's lights and flags, American flag, Basque flag, like it really looks like a great time. Kind of gives me rib cook-off vibes. I don't know if you guys have been to that, but yeah, I think it looks pretty dang fun. And so even though there's been basically no Basque immigration into the US within the last 20 years, it's actually grown 25%, which is kind of cool that Basques are staying around and still keeping their culture alive. So that's all for my presentation. I just wanted to say thank you, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And that's all. Thank you.